we weren't necessarily looking to start a project necessarily, really. It was just, we came together and we were like, oh, I like how you play guitar. There's some kind of dark, like twangy, mysterious elements that we both had, just intrinsically and in our styles and our sound and everything. So that was really cool to see that come together. It was like a call and response. Like I would play something and then she'd play something, and it would meld together very well. So yeah, that was just something that kept happening, and we could just play for hours and hours, and we would record during when we were doing that. And one time she was out of town, and I sent her like, it was like 3 hours. And I was like, here's this very large file that your computer may or may not have been. But it's just like one of the sessions where we had sat down in the middle of all the guitar pedals and everything. And yeah. So that was just something that organically came together, I would say.
And a lot of projects kept unfolding with us. It almost got too crazy in the beginning of our friendship and like relationship, because we just kept thinking of things to do together. And as we, been in each other's lives for like 5 years now, it's like gotten more condensed and refined and focused. And, that's been a gift, because we've kind of found our niche and our kind of awareness of how we create together.
Yeah.
Or what we like to curate together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be like, there's a lot of like subterranean elements to us. A lot about, Cape Vaults on the Moon in New Mexico was about a kind of like a time capsule, an imagined vault, on the moon, but we decided New Mexico was the moon. Yeah. So we were like, oh, what if New Mexico's the moon? We just made it the moon. And so we're like, there's a hum going on in Taos. There's, there it actually just happened, but there was like a search for treasure, that was recently just discovered. That was like kind of a topic for the last few years. There's like a lot of mystery and a lot of history that's been hidden for so long. So we kind of, I think, get into that subterranean, like undercover, buried digging space. But it's not necessarily morbid. It's like kind of life giving. It's like there's something else there. So I would say there's like a subterranean sphere. I would say there's like, maybe a little celestial or cosmic, in the sense of it being like we're trying to connect to a spirit outside of like what we can see. And a lot of that has to do with sound, because sometimes the communication that we're best at is just sound, and that's why our music, we're not like, attached to having our vocals, like you can't really tell what we're singing.
Yeah,
it's a lot more sound based versus like, oh, the lyrics go like this.
Yeah, I'd say that's interesting. I'd say celestial while also staying grounded.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when we write, we also have to go outside and like dig in the dirt and garden, and then we come back. So really existing between those two spheres, those two realms. The interaction and how we compose music together, it's like I've never had that kind of relationship with playing music with someone, but we have sometimes, like I would sit down and write a chunk of something, but it wouldn't be finished, and then she would write something and we would come back together and see if they fit together, and oftentimes they would.
Yeah, there'd be some strange moments where we'd be working on almost the same, like it'd be like the same chord, a song in another, or a piece of a soundscape in another room. And then we'd be like, what were you playing? And then we're like, oh, let's piece it together and see if it worked. And actually, there's a song New Dune, and that song is totally two different things that we actually found their way to. And it was written at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is, it's pretty unbelievable, but maybe not, because we spend so much time together and constantly are having a dialogue.
But I also wonder if it has to do something with the space, like vibrationally.
Yeah.
Possibly, I don't know. Like you go into one room and that's just kind of the chord you pick up, or you know, the tone that you hear or feel. Because it would be, we were in a different space when we wrote most of Cave Vaults. But yeah, that would be something where I would leave a space and then she would inhabit it and write something, or vice versa. And so it was pretty cool to see that those came together in that way. And I feel like we always start with writing the music.
Right. And other times where we really are doing improvisational, we'll sit down and light a fire, and it could come out like in 1 second, or I don't know, like an hour later, all of a sudden we're in another level, and then there's something. But we record almost everything we do, and then we listen to it later, like on a drive, or cooking dinner. We'll put on what we've created that day.
Yeah.
But it's kind of magical, because we both play electric guitar, but we both have kind of a different sensibility in how we play, and it's almost like we were made to play together, because I'm much more like tonal, like one note kind of guitar playing. Is that what you would say? Guitar playing. And Lauren kind of she's got really amazing compositions, and so kind of we have this way of weaving those together, so they're not competing with each other, but they're complementing or finding their language and dialogue.
Yeah. That's it too. And if we write that way, where we sit down, there's a lot of looping. It could be just an hour playing a similar thing, and you're like, oh wait, I hear something else, you know. And yeah, like she said, we record everything because you think your mind will forget such amazing things that you come up with, but it does. And I think it's great to, as you said, to drive around and really take in the landscape. And I think that like seeps into it too, because sometimes you'll hear something else when you're visually taking it in, you know, as well as listening to it. So
and lyrics come much later.
Yeah.
They can either, a melody could either be kind of happening simultaneously, but I think, you know, Cave Vaults, that took a long time to write, and we were very patient with it, and there was like a deep process to that album where it was just me and her in this really brutal landscape. Sometimes it can get really harsh, and we were living in a house that was like crumbling, and it was kind of haunted and all sorts of things, and that we really found our light was really like taking time to really work on these songs, and we pretty much gave ourselves, that was the only thing we did. It was our quarantine before quarantine was long before it was happening.
Yeah. You're just there, and if you come up with something, you'd be like, can you just like try to play this really fast, you know? Which that's also been beautiful to have that at your fingertips. But, yeah. We both mentioned our grandfathers. I think because they did so anything they were interested in, they would really, really research it, get into it, and I like that, and I hope that for humanity again. You know, I think that we have quickly come to us, and whether it be news or knowledge or whatever, and people might find it hard to really dig into something. And we both love to do that. We get obsessed with it, like just like, you know, sourdough starter or gardening, grapes, wine, whatever, you know. And so I think both of our grandfathers did that. Like my grandfather was he went on canoe trips with a National Geographic like photographer and made candles and was like a beekeeper and had a garden and things like that. And I think that it's important. It's important to learn about things, learn as much as you can, to really try to understand, you know, and people or earth or, you know, whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Yeah, my grandpa was, well, both my grandpas were really amazing men. One in like the LA Philharmonic, like threw out a bunch of violins, and my grandpa jumped in the dumpster because he saw like violas and stuff sticking out, and he reassembled like 20 violins from them. And so he had a meticulous kind of mind and a love of music. And the other grandfather was he was a civil rights activist and a sculptor, and he didn't believe in finding, like, purchasing material to create art, and he didn't believe in selling his art. And so he did mostly paper mache and like rock paintings. And he'd pick me up in his van and we'd go to Venice Beach and, you know, mix a bucket of paper mache, and we'd spend the day making stuff on the beach. And so they had a very huge kind of shaping of my priorities in life. And it was really interesting because Lauren and me speak about them frequently as being kind of our influence. And it feels good to have a direct influence because you never really know the history of everybody. And it's nice to have a personal connection.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Then good first. You go.
Okay. My mom brought me to Taos when I was about 7 or 8, and we did go to the Taos Club though, and it's a memory that was like a forever memory with me, and I remember it just was very vivid. And randomly, you know, 20 some. I moved here at 31, but so 23 or 24 years later, I came back because I had worked on a book, and part of it was written here in Taos, not by me, but by the other author. So it was co-authored by 3 people. And we brought the book as a way of bringing it back to Taos because the author had passed away and we had finished the design. And 300 pages of it. It was cookbooks, so recipes. And when I did, I felt like staying, and it was like a potent experience of like staying. And so I kind of did 2 trips back to get my stuff and things, and I was living pretty lightly at that point, so it wasn't hard. But I just ended up being here, and I stayed because it's one of the most challenging places to be. And it's extremely, it gives me so much learning time and growth time. And the history here is really important to me. And I think that it's just, it's a space that I feel a lot of communication with the landscape. And I also really respect it as it not being my landscape. And, you know, I don't know. I think it's just the challenges that I've had here have helped me grow so much. And then meeting Lauren and our work together here is also really kind of a channeled experience. And I don't know if it's because of the land or if it's because we have the time to give so much to each other and give so much to ourselves. There's not a lot of distractions. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
It's a good reason. Mm-hmm. I was living in Austin, and I had wanted to learn woodworking. I'd wanted to learn some other crafts where I could kind of be more self-sustainable and maybe make something that would outlive myself and use nature to do those things. And so, you know, whenever I was in other bands and stuff, I would tour, and every time I was in New Mexico, I just like felt something. I was like, oh, I just gotta, I gotta see more. And I'd always wanted to live in New Mexico, and I hadn't even spent time in Taos, but I had found a program at UNM that it was just like a 2-year woodworking program, and I signed up for it and found a home on Craigslist or whatever at the time, and just moved here. And I'd never been here in my life. I had been, like other places, Albuquerque, Las Cruces, other places throughout New Mexico, and I wasn't even really planning on staying. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the challenges and the landscape, yes, and the landscape and everything. And I've grown so much being here that I don't think I could ever go backwards in any capacity. And so there's just still so much to learn and research and be a part of here that I don't know. I see myself sticking around for a while, but yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay, so monsoons come in the summertime, right? And when that would happen, a ton of like mud would fall down. And in that mud, our like dog would like dig around, and it was washing down flint and arrowheads like off our roof. That space was, 250 plus years old. And it was built on like this missioned land. And I think where we parked was actually an old graveyard. It was that's where we wrote Cave Vaults. Pretty much almost the whole album there. And it was like, you were living in kind of the experience of colonialism and the changes of it all. And the Catholic church bell ringing in your front door or in the front door of the gallery. And then, a very old community that we didn't want to disrupt. And so there was a lot of mystery we wanted to preserve and keep and not make such a huge impact. And I think we kind of made like a statement on our Instagram, which was about like treading lightly in small towns and kind of keeping your footprint pretty low, because, we think these places should be preserved in the sense of like kind of the way that they've been either mangled into beauty or like, you know what I mean? And if someone comes in and wants, a cool this or that, or needs the great coffee shop with the pour overs, it's just like a thing. And you can change a place really specifically and really dramatically to looking just like something you left or lived at a previous time. And so when we would have a thing, when we would have a presentation, when we'd have a little show or we'd have music, almost immediately we would remove our gallery sign and kind of make it feel like, oh, did that happen? Or just give it some sort of space. And then we'd wait like 6 weeks to do something again, or 3 months. It just had to be a feeling thing versus like, we're going to churn out shows. It kind of had to speak to us that we wanted to do something.
Yeah, because we weren't trying to start, which I don't really like the word, but like a scene or anything like that. We just wanted to kind of promote creativity, and if we came across something or someone got in touch with us, but yeah, like she said, we would take the sign down and people would drive past and be like, I thought, they'd be like, whoa, I thought your gallery was over here, but I couldn't find it, and we're like, that's the dialogue we wanted with.
We do that with our subs too. It feels like a quiet time right now, in some respects, but we're working on our next album, and it's just me and Lauren again, and it's kind of exciting, but I like the slow build of it all, because we still are in dialogue about something that we put so much love and heart into, and it's finding its way to like people, like it's just finding its way, and we wouldn't have believed that, you know, coming from a really it was pretty sacred making that that album. We definitely found our sound together, and that was like, you know, now that we have that, we can only go forward with it.
Yeah. And something else we had wished for within writing the album is pretty much the question you asked. Like, we wanted to be able to have a narrative of what we felt was important to talk about, and those things like gentrification or colonialism, and how people interact with each other, how communities interact with each other. And yeah, like, please don't come make Taos really cool.
Yeah.
You know, we're it's just
it's cool, but it's not cool in the ways that people need them to be.
Yeah.
Need it to be.
Yeah.
It's been a gift to like have Lauren as, you know, my partner in these projects, because we've had this dialogue from the beginning of our time together, and it's not a new, you know, it's not a new topic. It's like apparent, and we talk about it in so many spectrums of like who we are, and sometimes even what has made us, and what colors we are, and all sorts of things, and that we're women, and however those roles fit into being here in Taos. And it's nonstop, and and I think it's important because no, we weren't born in New Mexico, but there's just like a reverence to have, a super like a reverence and a gratitude for being here.
Yeah, and just trying to be aware of these things and not take or commodify or turn it into something else, you know. I think that's something that people like to do because they love something or they want to show appreciation for it. But yeah, we really try our best to tread as lightly as possible, and
while still being who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Time capsule.
Yeah, the next time capsule, it's true. Because it does feel like that. I mean, that's something I've kind of learned about a little more being here. It's just like the timing and time of everything, just it really does feel non-linear. Like things that come up, you know, you're like, wait, has that happened yet? Or did that already happen? Or is it happening simultaneously?
Yeah.
You know? So that's the next, that's in a linear fashion. The next thing is the album for sure. Yeah.